Hello, hello, and welcome to Digital Marketing This Week. It is episode number 52. We've done a year worth of these. This one we're entitling Badges, Recipes, and SEO. Of course, it's all brought to you by Seriously Simple Marketing over at seriouslysimplemarketing.com. My name is Chris Mercer. I'm all about analytics and optimization, so constantly in Google Analytics and split testing software like Visual Website Optimizer, tools like Google Tag Manager, all that sort of fun stuff. We also write quite a bit over at Seriously Simple Marketing, where I'm in charge of their content development and, of course, the host of Digital Marketing This Week. And yeah, just call me Mercer. All right. Let's go ahead and give you a real quick reminder. If you are not joining us live, we do record these live in front of a kind of a live studio audience, of course, virtually. But if you are not yet part of that, go ahead and go over to seriouslysimplemarketing.com and you join our notification list, because then you will be told when these recordings are. You can join us live, you can ask questions and just participate in the chat room. Of course, if you already are joining us live, now's the time. Go ahead and introduce yourself in chat room, say hi, and ask any questions you like. And again, the questions can be about what we're covering today, and it can also be about just other related things to marketing. If you might have a challenge with your traffic or conversions or whatever, we can help you with that too. It's a chance to get some free help where possible from ourselves and, of course, your peers. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the episode for today. To bring up the very first one here, this is from Marketing Land. So our friends over at Marketing Land posted an update that's coming out with Facebook. And so this is kind of under the industry news, something to be aware of. And I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down. As always, we're going to have a link to this post in our show notes, but I want to make sure that we give you the highlights here. So I'm just scrolling down in this post, and it's got an example of what this new feature is. And what it will be is with local businesses, with physical brick and mortar businesses, or actually with celebrities and things like that too, they're going to do this. They're actually doing verification now. Now, this is something that's been around for Twitter for a long, long time, but now Facebook's coming out to it. So now you're able to claim your page and verify that it's the real deal. I'm not entirely certain this is going to be something that everyone needs to rush out and do, but it's not hard to do. So if it is something where you're a brick and mortar, maybe you're a local dentist or something like that, and you've got a physical location and you want to make sure that you've claimed your page and you can say, yes, this is me, and you're going to Facebook saying, yes, verify my address, they will actually go through this process and you get this little badge. And it's not, I don't think right now it's too descriptive. It just shows a little check mark. And if you go to the blog post, you'll see this. If you're watching us on our video podcast on YouTube, you can see this. There's like a little gray circle check mark that shows up. That's all it means. It's just like, yes, Facebook has verified that you're the real deal. And it's like this authenticity. So with celebrities or places or people, I believe they're also doing that. And it's going to be like a blue check mark. So it might show up as blue. So you have that option as well. But it's something to look into. If nothing else, it just makes it easier for somebody searching for your business on Facebook to know that they found the right one. A lot of times, you will search in Facebook, and Facebook search is horrible. It has been for a long, long time, and it'll pull up 40 different versions of whatever it is you're looking for, and you're not sure which one is the one you really need. So having this feature could be of use, and so that's something to take a look at. Again, it is Facebook's badging is what they're calling it. So verification badges is what this would be. There is a link to the article itself in our show notes, and of course, in that article, they've lots of instructions and some more information for you as well. Next up, let's go to our friends over at Conversion Excel, and this is a recent post that our buddy Alex wrote. This is 7 poisonous conversion optimization myths. Now, it's a long post, and Alex does a really great job of sort of not so much coming up with the content himself as much as going out and finding the experts and then curating that content. So he's going out to a lot of different CRO, which is, again, content rate optimization. So a lot of CRO experts, they think the myths are, right? So the very first one here is CRO's list of tactics and best practices. So that's a huge myth in the industry, is saying, if you just follow this, this, and this, if you just use a high contrast button, if you just keep things simple, if you, just use orange, things like that, put a red dot, a little dashed line around your buttons, like it'll always convert more. It's not necessarily the case. And that's kind of what they're saying here, is like, you don't necessarily want to do that. The next myth coming up, split testing equals conversion rate optimization. So CRO, conversion rate optimization, is so much more than split testing. It's about collecting user data. It's not just the quantitative data. It's not just the numbers like analytics, but it's the qualitative database and heat maps and scroll maps, and putting all of those together to come up with a hypothesis of what's actually happening on the page, and then taking that information and going, okay, here's what we think is happening, here's what we want, and here's our hypothesis on how to make that happen. And then here's a variation of that page design that we think will actually make that happen, and then use test. And that's where split testing comes in. So again, split testing is not equal conversion rate optimization. Next up, this is Brian Massey. He's also a local conversion rate optimizer here in Austin, and a great guy. If thine testeth worketh not in the first months, then it's just not worthy to keep going. And that's a lot of times tests will be inconclusive. They might even fail. Like, you might have a really great idea, but the test fails. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the test that fails or your hypothesis is off. What it could mean is that you just didn't implement it properly. So, or in the way that would give you the bump, right? So in this example, he goes over a couple of different examples, but there's ideas of, okay, let's say, and I'm going to make this super simplistic just for example, but let's say you've got an idea on call to action in your button, and you want to have, well, let's do this. Here's a button. There's a button test that's got buy now, right? And that's the call to action is in the button, and you want to test, is it better to has buy now? And when somebody implements that, they implement in a light gray text underneath. So little tiny text underneath the button that says buy now. Well, if they do that and it doesn't work, it doesn't necessarily mean that that text hurt the conversions or was inconclusive. Maybe if you just made hyperlinked text, it would stand out a little more and would get more clicks. So it's things like that. You just basically want to talk and just keep in mind that just because it doesn't work right away, it doesn't necessarily mean your idea was wrong or your hypothesis was wrong. It could just be the implement. Next up, test to validate opinions and hypotheses. So, one of the myth here is that, of course, people are testing just to validate, right? So and this is what this means. This means sort of having this idea that you're right, and you're testing to find out that you're right. Well, if you do that, you only tend to see the data that you want to see. When you've made the decision of what the final test is going to look like before you even test, without as to like, hey, maybe I'm wrong, and being open to that. But when you just say, hey, I'm right, I'm going to go validate to make sure I'm right, you will read that test differently than what other people might. And so as a conversion rate optimizer, you want to make sure that when you're working with split tests and you're doing your test, you want to make sure that you sort of stand back and you look at it and just be open to the fact that, again, you could be wrong. This is just a hypothesis. You're going to put it out there and you're going to see what the market does. You're really just measuring the market behavior on this. So that's a really, really important myth to break there. When in doubt, another myth, when in doubt, copy the competition when it comes to conversion. It's ridiculous. Please don't do that. Yes, you can get great ideas from competition, but you do not need to copy them right away, just blindly. Because a lot of times, and I know because we've worked with a lot of companies who are in competition with each other sometimes, and one will start talking about an idea that they did, and they're going to say, hey, we want to do this because such and such is doing this. And what they don't know is that such and such is also testing. They're guessing too. They don't know. And so just because your competitor is doing it, even if they're a top competitor, it doesn't mean that they've been doing it for very long. It doesn't mean that it's even working. It doesn't mean that they've actually tested it. It doesn't mean they've even measured it. It just is an idea that they're trying out. And so if you take that, you can say, okay, well, it's an idea. Let's split test it. That's kind of fine. Like, assuming that you need to split test the element that you got the idea from, but to just blindly follow the competition is dangerous. And we have some past examples where working with a client, they've done that. They've taken what they thought would be just amazing. It's a great idea, it's competition, and they split tested it, and turns out it actually did hurt conversions. So it wasn't worth following. So that was something to consider. So again, not to blindly follow the competition. Next is understanding the stats. Now I'm just going to wait till the tool says it's done. So when it comes to split testing, you've got tools like Visual Website Optimizer and Optimizely that will actually give you kind of a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or a little trophy when the test is done. And they can be really dangerous. Sometimes they can actually just hurt themselves. Now, Visual Website Optimizer just went through a massive upgrade using a completely different method of calculating split test results, which is a lot faster. It doesn't require as much data. So that part's really nice. And the other really nice thing about this is that it has a ability to say, because kind of balance your test, right? Kind of puts them on a scale of, hey, you know what? Just make the decision as fast as you can, versus telling VWO, okay, I want you to get as much data as possible so that you are certain. And so there's a scale there. It's either get as much data so you're super certain on this answer, or, you know what, just make your best guess because I'm trying to get a quick answer. And you can kind of help it scale that way and kind of determining how much data you need and how long you need to run the test. But it will also tell you, hey, this, based on what we know right now, this test needs to run X amount of time. And so you should keep it running for at least this much more period of time. Like, it'll give you those hints now, whereas before it really never did that. It would just say, hey, thumbs up, you've got a trophy, this is a winner. And it might do that in a few hours, which is ridiculous because it's not really a winner in a few hours. And so they've fixed a lot of that. But keep in mind, when you're doing your split test, and this is how we kind of do it. We do it like a red light, yellow light, green light system. So we will make sure that if the confidence factor is high, right, where it's like a 95% or above confidence factor, then that's a green light. That's a go for us. If it's at least a sales cycle, which typically for a lot of direct response marketers is about a week. So we go through at least a week, and ideally, 3 weeks, would be like the ultimate green light, but at least a week for us to sort of go like, okay, maybe there's something here. And then the other thing we take a look at is the number of conversions per variation, which we like to see at least at 100 and ideally over 300 per variation. So that's sort of the stuff that we're taking a look at when we know, okay, should we move forward? Is this test, is the result that we're getting, is it really, really valid? And that's where that comes from. All right, and finally, CRO is the same as SEO, social media, email. If you've got a budget, you can sort of buy it more and cut it down a lot. And it really isn't. CRO, I should say, conversion optimization. It's a culture. So your company culture should always be interested in taking what it is that you've got and pushing it to the next level and tweaking it just a little bit more and trying to squeeze just a little more juice out of it. And it's so much more than split testing pages. I know we've talked a lot about that here, but conversion optimization is everything from your emails that you're writing, and obviously the lead gen forms to get the emails in the first place, but then the back end email process, stick sequences to make sure that customers who are purchasing your products are actually using them and happy, and referrals, and all the different things that you can kind of tweak to get better and better results from your marketing efforts. That's conversion optimization. It's constantly pushing the ball forward. So again, we covered this at a really high level, but go through, take a look at this post. It's a great post, and there's a lot of particular advice that Alex has found over at Conversion Excel from these top conversion rate optimizers to kind of give you some more specifics as to what you can do to maybe help your site out. Next up, if this then that. This is all about some from our friends over at Social Media Examiner, some recipes. So if you haven't used if this then that, it's an incredible tool. We actually use it. I use it all the time, where it plugs in different pieces of software and gets them to talk to each other. So for example, I'll use it with Asana and something called Slack, which helps us to sort of keep the team going. So we use Slack and Asana. And so whenever a task is assigned to me in Asana, or if there's an activity on a task with Asana, I actually have it send a notice to my Gmail. And then my Gmail will then filter those notices based on certain things. So I don't necessarily care if it says I have a task due today, because I know that, but I do care if a certain task is got activity on it, let's say. So I can set up a Gmail filter that will then filter that. Then what I do is I use if this then that to say, go read those Gmails. And if there's a particular filter that if a message goes into a particular filter, then I want to know about it in Slack, and it'll actually send me a message in Slack and ping me and let me know that I've got some attention that I need to pay to Asana, which is really nice. This article, though, because of course brought to you by Social Media Examiner, this article is all about creating recipes for social media marketing. So first they go through a really great tutorial of how to use this, if this, then that. And again, we're going to have links to this in our show notes. So no need to take a look at that, and we'll go ahead and have you go through it. But it is absolutely worth going through. So if you're not used to if this, then that, go through this. It'll help you a lot. Then it goes through and actually gives you a bunch of different recipes you can use. So for example, they've got one here where if your brand is mentioned on Twitter, for example, it'll send you an email. There's another one where they've got different mentions will either tweet you, or it will actually text you. You can set up to text your phone. So there's all sorts of cool things that you can do with if this then that, and it really is amazing. They've got lots of different social networks that are plugged in here. Pinterest is plugged in. Buffer, if you haven't used Buffer, it's a great social media tool. So Buffer's plugged in. Twitter is obviously plugged in. There's lots of things, and they're adding new ones all the time. So take a look at this article itself. I highly recommend you going through it. Just wanted you to make sure that you are aware if this then that can be used for these purposes. And if you're doing a lot of social media and you want to try to automate that because you want to spend your time doing other things, using if this then that is an incredible time saver. Again, I use it all the time, and take a look at it. So I will put the notes in the show notes again. Next and finally, this is an article about SEO. Now, we always try to keep our ear to the ground as far as what's going on with SEO, and more SEO has not been what it once was. And that's kind of what this article is talking about from our friends over at Kissmetrics. So they created this article and said, hey, how much are keywords really still a thing? Like, do you have to worry about that? And the long and the short of it is, Google's doing more of the SEO work for you now. It didn't used to be like that, but Google's basically becoming smarter. And then when we say Google, we mean the search engine. So the search engine is becoming much, much smarter. That algorithm that figures out what the results should be and what the ranking should be, it's getting much, much smarter. And every day it just gets a little bit smarter at trying to figure out, when you type in something, what are you really looking for? And then trying to make sure that it gets you the best match, because you may not necessarily know what you're looking for, but you kind of know what you're looking for. So you type that in the search engine, and the search engine's got sometimes a really big hurdle to get you what you're really searching for, and it's getting much, much better at doing that. And because it's doing that with the people who are searching, it's doing that exact same thing with the content that it's scraping, where it's going through the different content, the pages that we're creating as content marketers, and it's going through those, trying to figure out, okay, what is this page really about? Right? Not what they're trying to tell me it's about, but what is it really about, so that I can actually recommend and make a solid recommendation to the person I should say, who is actually searching for this particular content. So because of that, keyword stuffing, all this other stuff that people used to get from years and years ago, that's all gone away. That's dead. You don't need to do that anymore. But you do still need to make sure you've got some basic SEO. Now, from our perspective, and again, the blog post itself over Kissmetric is great to go through. It kind of gives you some really basic high-level stuff to go through. But from our perspective, there's two things that we do. One is we use Yoast, because we have a WordPress site. So it's we use Yoast SEO plugin. We just make sure on every page that we publish that we want to be tracked and ranking, we will use Yoast, and we fill it out, and that's pretty much it. But the other thing, and they mentioned this in this article as well, is long tail. We're not trying to get a million people who are searching for a term. It's from my personal perspective, that's ridiculous. Like, we're never going to have that sort of market or niche. But if so, for example, I don't want people who are like, learn WordPress, right? It's not my market. I don't, it's too big. It could be somebody who's just starting out. It could be a company who knows, learn what about WordPress, learn how to post, learn how to make a plugin, learn how to code WordPress. Like, what does that mean? It doesn't really, it's too general. But when somebody says, learn how to, or how to install Google Analytics on a WordPress site, I can rank for that term. I can make an article that is amazing content for that term. How to install Google Tag Manager on a WordPress site is another one. It's very specific, right? It's long tail, and somebody's going to type in how to. There are people who will do that. Not everybody, but people will, and more people will, because what's going to happen is that it's going to become more and more audio. So instead of me typing in how to blah blah blah, computers are going to get much, much better at, and they already are with personal assistants on our phones and everything else, but they're going to get much, much better at picking up on cues of when they're supposed to listen and when they're supposed to take an action. So this is the SEO that you might be doing today, you're going to get some benefit from. But the SEO that I'm doing today, I'm trying to get the benefit a year or two out, when this audio starts really taking over and somebody goes, okay, insert assistant here, whatever the cue is to turn on the assistant, it'll be really fast, and they'll say, okay, blah, 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 how do I install Google Tag Manager on a WordPress site? And that assistant's going to go out and find things, and it's going to do it based upon how I'm telling it to rank the post right now. And if I put that in there and I'm ranking for that long tail keyword phrase, chances are I'm going to be the one that's outranking everybody else. So that's kind of what some really cool things you can do with SEO. And in thinking about how to do SEO, that's how you think about it. So create really good content, tell Google what the content is. You don't need to overly complicate it. There's just some basic, keep your keyword phrases in certain parts, like in the URL and all that fun stuff. But if you use a plugin like Yoast SEO, which is great and free, it will actually guide you through the entire process, so you don't have to worry about it. So that is the fourth and final article on digital marketing this week. Just want to make sure that we cover the industry change, which was the new Facebook verification badges, and then a couple of tactics you can use, like going through and how you think about conversion optimization, or how you think about your automation with using tools like If This Then That, and of course when it comes to SEO and how you should go about doing that, not only for now, but for the future. SEO is a long tail, it's a long-term game. So using long tail keywords is again, it may not help you today get 1 million visitors, but if you're doing this for a while and you have all these different posts out there that are attracting 50 to 100 visitors a day, it doesn't take very long to have a pretty high traffic site. So with that, we're going to go ahead and end episode number 52. I'm just going to go ahead and flip back into my little PowerPoint. And thank you again for joining us for Digital Marketing This Week, episode 52, Badges, Recipes, and SEO. We will talk to y'all next week. Take care.